man, come on, come pick me up. He's like, we're already in Syracuse. You got to find your own way home. I'll probably send you some money later. So he hangs up. The detective's like, look, there's nothing we can do for you, man. You know, we're going to take you down here to this shelter and they'll help you get an ID. And it's called the Homeward Bound program, and they'll buy you a ticket and they'll send you home. So they drove me all the way to Manhattan to this homeless shelter. And
you went from having a job, money,
to straight
partying,
homeless,
having a good time, to homeless. And how much time did happen between you getting robbed and being homeless?
In all just less than 24 hours. Wow. So I walk into this homeless shelter. There's no beds. It's just tables. They have a feed.
Homeless shelter. That quick.
And the homeless shelter was bad. I looking back at it, I've learned a lot of lessons with that homelessness experience, because I was there for a month. And I learned how to hop trains. I was hanging out with a lot of homeless, and I would go with them. And in the streets of New York, especially Manhattan, Brooklyn, and Bronx, when the lights are on and it's daylight, bodegas are open, shops have their merchandise out on the street, and it's just like a big smorgasbord of shopping centers. And at nighttime, it's a whole different world. Smoke's coming out of the sewers. I thought the Ninja Turtles were gonna pop up because it looked like the Ninja Turtle cartoons. So smoke's rolling out of the sewer caps. People are laying in the streets. There's needles everywhere, drugs everywhere, packets of used dope, people feasting in the street, using the bathroom in the street right there, cops ignoring them. And I would go around with these people who stayed in this little shelter that had no beds, and we would go behind Dunkin' Donuts, and we would jump in dumpsters and get big old bags of these donuts and take them back to the shelter and feed people. And we would go to soup kitchens, different soup kitchens, and they would show me how to survive and eat. And I ended up trying to take my Rolex
So in that homeless shelter, there's like a community that would teach you how to survive.
How to survive homeless. Yes.
They taught you how to get food 7 days out of the week without paying.
Yes. I mean, a lot of them would go into Taco Bell dumpsters and eat half-eaten burritos. Burger King.
But y'all would feed other homeless though.
And we would take bags of this used food that these companies would throw away, and we would feed other.
Wait a second. Where there was scarcity, there was more giving.
Yes,
is what you're telling me.
Exactly. It's like they took care of each other, and we noticed that around a lot of our community as well with the homeless. So, with all that, I mean, I had the Rolex on. I'm wearing all Fat Farm. And I don't have any jewelry. I got to keep my watch. I went into a pawn shop. I figured, okay, I can sell my watch and I can get a plane ticket or a bus ticket and make it back home. So I go into the pawn shop and I'm sitting there trying to sell my watch. The guy doesn't want to give me no money for it. He says I don't have any ID, and he kicks me out of the pawn shop. And I walk out, I try another pawn shop, get the same thing. So later I finally get a hold of George that owns the moving company, and he says that he's gonna he's gonna buy me a ticket at Greyhound. I need to make it to 42nd in Times Square at the Greyhound station, and he'll buy me a ticket and I'll go home. So I ended up getting in a taxi. The taxi ride was $75. I ain't got no money. Taxi driver don't know it. I get all the way to Times Square, and when I finally get there, the taxi driver's like, where's my money? I'm like, hold on, I gotta call my boss. He's sending me money, this and that. So I use the cab driver's phone, call my boss. He doesn't answer. The first 5 times I call, finally he answers, and like, I'm not sending you no money. You gotta figure it out yourself. So the cab driver gets mad. I'm asking him to take me back to the homeless shelter. He's like, if you don't get out, I'm gonna call the police. So he puts me out right there on 42nd and Times Square. So I'm hungry. I'm as hungry as can be. I'm walking around and I see a pawn shop, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try a pawn shop here and get rid of my watch. I walk in there. The guy's like, you know, I could give you $300 or $400 for it, and that's about all I can do. But you got to have ID. I'm like, I don't have ID. So he doesn't give me the money. He puts me out. I go outside. I see this little food hot dog vendor with pretzels and stuff like that, and I want some food so bad. And I'm like, look, you give me a pretzel, a hot dog, and a Coke, and I'll give you this watch. And the guy looks at me and he's like, really? And he points over to his left, and I look over, and there's a table sitting there with all these fake Rolexes.
Oh no! What?
I'm like, this ain't one of those.
This ain't even real.
I'm like, this one's real, man. And he starts looking at it, comparing it, and you know, evidently he gave me the hot dog, the pretzel, and the drink. And then I leave. I go to Times Square.
So you gave him the watch?
Yeah, I gave him the watch. I was that hungry.
$400. Man, you were hungry.
So it was, you know, this is where I started living to the point to where these are only materialistic things. Yeah, I didn't grow out of that just that moment, but it was like, okay, if I got it now, I could get it again. And that was the mentality I always had. Well, I ended up going to the Greyhound station, and I was trying to get a ticket on my own, seeing if someone would help me get home, and it just didn't happen. And it's cold out here now, but this is like, it was cold in New York. It was almost middle of winter, and I'm sitting there, and I don't have nowhere to go. The police are kicking people out of the Greyhound station that are sleeping in there, the homeless and everything. So I'm walking down this hallway, like where you go to get on the bus, and I saw a Coca-Cola machine crammed away. So I pulled the Coca-Cola machine out, and I slept behind that Coca-Cola machine just to stay warm. That was the warmest I got the whole time I was out there. So I slept behind that Coca-Cola machine. I woke up, and I found my way to the nearest subway, and I hop the rails, and I get on a train, and I take it back to the homeless shelter. So when I got back to the homeless shelter after hopping the train, this lady, Barbara, who ran that homeless center, told me that she had some paperwork for me, that she had a ticket for me to get a Greyhound, but I had to go get my Social Security number at the Social Security office, just verification that that was me, and to go down to this other homeless shelter, and they'll give me a paper copy of they'll take my picture and all my identification as a paper copy. So I get down, she told me this homeless center was one that Mike Tyson founded, and I get down there, and they give me 2 sack lunches. It's a very big facility, and it has multiple floors, pool tables, everything. I get down there, I actually saw Mike Tyson walking through one of the hallways, and I wasn't able to go up to him and talk to him or meet him face to face, but I saw him walk in the halls with a couple of people in suits, and they gave me my picture, they gave me my identification, my paper identification, and I made it back to the Homeward Bound program, the other homeless shelter I came from. And when I got back, she did all my information. She got me a ticket for a bus, but it didn't leave for 30 days. By that time, I called Gary from the shelter phone, and he wired me $80. Now that I had paper ID, I ended up going down to Western Union, getting the $80, and I bought me a ticket from LaGuardia Airport in New York to fly back to West Palm Beach. I get to LaGuardia Airport the next day to fly back, and as I'm trying to board the plane, I give them the paper ID and the Social Security number paper and my boarding pass and the police report, and they were like, this police report ain't real. I'm like, this is a New York police report, man. This happened to me here. You're a New York cop and you're telling me I can't board a plane? So I missed my first flight out. They did all the research, called the precinct, find out that it really happened, and they finally let me on the plane. And I got to fly back from LaGuardia Airport all the way to West Palm Beach. And when I got back, Gary had me a hotel room. He had all my stuff that I had.
What about the yacht? I thought you stayed on the yacht.
We ended up moving off the yacht, moved into efficiency on the beach. It was where you could pay weekly, and that's where we ended up staying for 6 months. See, none of this would have happened if I would have just, did the things that I was supposed to do with my life. I mean, if I would have been out in New York, if I would have stayed in Florida and kept the job that I had with the tree service that I was working for, instead of just jumping the gun, being like, okay, yeah, hey, Gary, you say we could go to New York, man, Little Italy, this is stomping grounds where all the mobsters were, let's go. I got excited on some worldly things.